We choose what we're going to invest in. You know, if you're going to invest in a property, that does not mean it's all going to go great. You invest in a marriage, does not mean it's all going to go great. You have to know what to expect.
Yeah.
So again, I feel like even just cheering Andrew on in this, it's like you help people to know, hey, that's normal. Yes. No big deal. Here's what we're going to do. Here's some tools and some things that are going to be helpful. Okay, let's go together. It's like they're falling over on the trail because their pack is so heavy and you're coming alongside, you know, I got the donkey, I got the stuff. We're going to do this together. Yeah. And I see that's really what you do. And that's really your gift.
Getting a donkey.
Welcome to Our Family Invests, the podcast where successful couples come together to share their inspiring stories of balancing family, life, and business. We're Mike and Caroline Neubauer, husband and wife entrepreneurs striving to live our best lives with our family at the center. This podcast celebrates the couples who inspire us, invest in each other, and raise those around them to the next level. Join us as we explore their challenges and victories. Let's learn, share, and grow together. Today we're honored to introduce Andrew and Janelle Devlin, a powerhouse duo whose mission is to help families win in marriage, parenting, business, and life. Andrew hails from a small town in northern England and has fully chosen to live a life of adventure and purpose. From windsurf instructor to personal trainer to one of Tony Robbins' top coaches, he's now regarded as one of the best mindset coaches on the planet. Janelle is equally extraordinary. After years as a trauma nurse, she's become a renowned holistic mental wellness coach, pulling greatness out of everyone she meets with her deep faith, love for people, and passion for the outdoors. Together, they've homeschooled 4 remarkable children while building a life dedicated to lifting others up. They are each other's biggest cheerleaders and an example of how partnership, faith, and purpose can transform lives. Join us as we dive into their inspiring journey and the incredible wisdom they have to share. All right, so I know that's a pretty cheerful intro, but Now in your own words, I want you guys to fill in the gaps and tell the audience a little about each of you, what you do, what you've done, what you're most proud of. But here's the twist. Andrew, you tell us about Janelle, and then Janelle, you tell us about Andrew.
Oh, man.
All right, now you're in trouble.
Yeah.
So you better be nice to me later. So Janelle, I met when she was 23 years old. This 23-year-old baby. And, I was working in Alaska and she was a lonely passenger on a cruise ship and I happened to be running the gym.
Can I interject or?
No, you can just stay quiet.
Listen? Okay.
Yeah. And then she hounded me and tracked me down. Maybe it was the other way around. But yeah, so we met and we moved to, we started dating and we progressed pretty fast. And then Janelle was like, do you want to live in England or America? And I was like, I don't like the rain. So that was an easy choice. So I moved to Colorado with pretty much a couple of backpacks and sold my motorcycle. And that was the only money I had in the world. And came over to America with like no college education and anything like that. And Janelle sort of taught me how to live like a human because I'd been living in tents and cruise ships for a long time. So Janelle was a nurse, and even on our first date, Janelle was like full of passion, full of purpose, and talked about what she wanted to do in the future. And I was gonna open a gym in England, and she was talking about being like the nurse in the gym, and she could.
Well, I was teaching
health talks.
I was a trainer during the time too. Yeah. So I was like, oh, we could do things together at your new gym.
Yeah. So she's always been a girl of possibility. What can we do? What can happen?
Oh, thank you.
And she was instrumental in my coming to my faith as well. And just, I went to church when I was a kid, but I remember getting picked up by my hair by the Sunday school teacher and thrown against a wall. And why he's quoting eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. Somebody pulled someone's hair. He thought it was me. It wasn't, but that was his response. So then the next time I went with my mom, I just saw a guy in a long dress talking in a language that I didn't understand. Mm-hmm. And so needless to say, I wasn't particularly involved with church as a child. And Janelle showed me a very different way to see Christ. But yeah, she's a joy. She's a light. She's a go-getter. She likes to have fun. She just brings out the best in people. And she's a great mama and great homeschool teacher. And I think if we reverse the clock,
homeschool 50-50 with the homeschool part.
If we rewind the clock, I don't think Janelle would have said, I'm going to be an adoptive parent and a homeschool mother and running some businesses. It was a career path of a nurse, but she's always had an entrepreneurial spirit. She comes from an entrepreneurial family, and we just have always worked really well together.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, thanks.
That was a pretty good relation like good recap, minus the lonely passenger on the cruise ship. But
yeah, so lonely with
So lonely.
35 of my cousins and aunts and uncles.
yeah,
But the average age on the cruise ship was 65 because it was an Alaskan cruise ship. And
Yeah.
so, I wasn't really planning to, meet a spouse. Maybe an elderly person that I could, be a pen pal with, but not my spouse. So
You think about becoming pen pals with elderly people. That was a 23-year-old. If only I could meet an elderly person I could become a pen pal with.
But actually today is 21 years since we got engaged.
Wow.
21 years.
Thank you for sharing the date with us.
Yeah.
I told Janelle about it, by the way.
He did. He reminded me this morning.
Well, Facebook
So I'll talk about Andrew. And when I met him again, he's a personal trainer and started an in-home personal training business even before, as he was getting his green card, even shortly after we were married. That was a whole process. And so you had that business for a few years. He ended up working for a chiropractor and was kind of his go-to person in the office to do everyone's exams and educate. And just naturally an incredible educator. He, I guess, was officially
Take that, teachers.
Yeah, he was diagnosed with an ADHD. He was diagnosed.
Probably quite a few things.
Yeah, but dyslexic. He was dyslexic as a child, and I guess you'd say a high-functioning dyslexic as an adult. But we've learned now that part of his story has been such a powerful way that he's really gotten to where he is now. I think just the way Andrew learns, he has a great way of being able to hear something and then educate on it, or hear someone's needs, hear a client's needs, whether no matter what area of business they're in. Mm-hmm. He does a great job at hearing what's going on, but then bringing in his knowledge, yes, of what he's learned at Tony Robbins and through John Maxwell and extra things that he's been a part of. But to bring that in and just make the connection, it's so cool to see. Sometimes I'm getting ready. We have a couple offices in the house, so he'll be in this office here, and I'll be getting ready, and I'm just like listening in, just so in awe of how he can be taking someone's issue, an area in business where they're stuck, and help them to completely change their thinking about it. And he doesn't need to know, what it is to be a certain kind of prosecuting attorney or whatever it is, but he knows that business is business. And people are people. And so to be able to bring that in and help people to just feel free and be able to kind of throw off the heaviness of business because they have someone that they can go to. So I love that about Andrew. And I'm just honored to be married to him for 20 years.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Still love him.
Wow. Go keeping me around.
Yeah, keeping you.
I love that. Okay, so that's where you were from meeting, being a couple. Who was Andrew before Janelle? Maybe walk through, because you mentioned dyslexia, so maybe mention your childhood and kind of how you got to Alaska.
So, so childhood, it was like, I guess I'll start at age 8. I went through a glass door in Greece and just cut my legs to bits. Damaged my spine, spent about 8 months relearning how to walk again. And that was obviously a pivotal moment in anybody's life, but I think it was just such a foundational, overcoming challenge. It's I wouldn't take it back even now. Sometimes, I still have some pain from that, but I wouldn't take it back because it made me very determined and very driven. And I couldn't walk much. My legs would give way. So I started cycling, and I still cycle to this day. And that was my way of blowing off steam. It was always a good escape for me. We lived right by the coast, so we had some sand duney beaches. If anyone's been out to the Outer Banks in North Carolina, sort of looks like that, but with mountains close by. And then we had, and then the ocean's right there. So I remember even as a kid going, I want to windsurf. And I remember my mother going, well, you don't have a wetsuit. And I went, okay. So I went and saved up my money and I bought a wetsuit. And then it was well, you don't have a windsurf board. And I was like, okay. So I bought the world's first production windsurf board ever. It was quite old, quite big. But then I ended up getting a trailer for my bicycle. And it was about an hour and a half ride to the beach where you'd windsurf. And then I started learning honestly, I skipped school a lot. I stopped really going to school at 13. If there was wind and the tide was in, we had a 14-meter tidal range.
Wow.
And so when the tide went out, it was just massive currents.
45-ish feet for those.
And, and then little islands dotted around with castles on and stuff like that. So it was always cool windsurfing around there. But I look back and I learned to rely on myself. You know, I got myself into trouble out in the ocean. I got myself out of trouble. I had to get myself there. I had to get myself back, but I didn't realize it. But then I started learning, like school. I came out of school thinking I was an idiot. Like I was just like, I had teachers going, if you're not going to do any work, well, what's the point of even coming? Well, I missed so much school with being in hospital a lot. And with the dyslexia, I had no clue what they were talking about.
And when you told them you wanted to work in water, what did they say?
Well, yeah, it was like careers day. They're like, oh, what do you want to do for careers day? Or what do you want to do for career? And I was like, I want to be a windsurf instructor. And they're like, that's not a real job. I'm like, yeah, it is a real job. And they said, well, if you like water so much, why don't you become a plumber?
Oh.
My hometown builds nuclear submarines, so it was all trades. It was welders, plumbers.
You don't just, not many people leave the town. Let's just say it's very much this is what you do.
Yeah.
And so you were different from the beginning of thinking outside the box of wanting to do something different.
Yep. And all that windsurfing stopped my legs giving way, you know. And then I got into skiing and mountain biking and horseback riding, and then I picked up a few injuries from those things over the years.
And how did that get you to the cruise ships?
So yeah, I ended up teaching windsurfing. So I lived in France and Spain. I worked over in the Canary Islands, and then I got a well-paying windsurfing job in England. And it was June, and it started snowing.
Oh no!
And I'm stood there now. I'd already stopped windsurfing in wetsuits because I couldn't stand putting them on every single day. And I thought I don't really fall off anymore. So I'm stood there, it's snowing, and I went, "Can you do this till you're 65?" No. That's how fast the answer came. Wow. And I was like, well, what do you love? So this was me at 21, maybe 23, somewhere around there. And I was like, you love traveling. And I was like, yeah, but you're broke. And I was like, cruise ships. I will get paid to travel. So I ended up going for an interview for a cruise ship. And the irony is I got the job. They said, where did you sleep last night? And I went, nowhere. I drove down. And it was like a 5-hour drive, which is a long way for an English person, just to let you know. And then they said, well, where are you staying tonight? I said, no, I'm driving back. And I said, I got work tomorrow. And they said, so when will the last time you have slept? I said, 2 days ago. And they went, you got the job. I said, I'll start in 6 months. And they said, why? And I said, I don't know why. I said, but I'll start in 6 months. And they said, well, there might not be a job for you then. I said, well, then it's not my path. I said, but I'll start in 6 months. So I called them in 6 months and later, and they were like, there's a job for you. And I was like, great. So anyway, that was the ship that I met Janelle on. So if I didn't wait, I didn't know why I was waiting. Yeah. But now I know why I was waiting.
And then they kept asking him to extend.
Yes.
And so he ended up being on for 9 months. When I met him, he only had 1 more week left in his contract. He had extended a few different times.
Yeah.
Because you were like, well, I guess I don't know what's next. So I guess I'll say yes. So that's just one of those many moments, as I think all of us have those moments. I know all of us have those moments where you just know it was meant to be.
Yeah. So I spent my youth watching the Discovery Channel and the History Channel when it had science and history on.
Sure. Yeah.
So I didn't realize that I was learning at those times. Sure. And but it's still there's many days I'm still watching nature documentaries and stuff like that. So
yes. This is Andrew. If he's not feeling well, it's David Attenborough.
Oh, I love that guy.
The voice is just
all the planet Earths, and like I'll fall asleep to those things. They're amazing.
Yeah, so does he. And he took over biology with the kids because it just, with my schedule and everything that's happening with work right now, I was like, can you? He's like, yes, I love doing that. So that ends up being great. Sometimes I'm learning more to stop and go, wait, is there someone else that can help me with this, whether it's in work or in family things?
Yes.
And I'm like, wait, this is perfect, because I'm a little bit more with my nursing background. I love how the human body works, of course, especially how the gut microbiome works and the science of the body and, muscles. Love that. And Andrew's, let's talk about the birds and, well, actually, literally the birds and the bees yesterday, but like bees and baby. Anyway, he goes deep with that. The kids love it. So that's been working out really well.
That's super cool.
Partnership.
So Andrew was this crazy wild adventure guy when you met him. But who is Janelle? Because you were just hanging out with 65-year-olds on a cruise ship, or that was your thing?
Yes. Yeah, I had just graduated from nursing school and just had passed my boards a few weeks before we left on the cruise. And so even when I started into nursing in my freshman year in college in Colorado, I'm from mainly a Colorado girl. We moved around a lot growing up, but definitely a Colorado girl. And I knew I wanted to do something in more holistic, nutrition. So I thought about nutrition. I attempted a few different paths. And then for a variety of reasons thought, okay, I'm going to do nursing. I'm not going to be a nurse, but I'll do nursing because it opens the door to some of these next steps of things I could do. And then after nursing was done, I thought, you know what, I'm going to stick with this for a while. And along the way, it was really evident to me that I loved the wellness side. I loved learning about pharmacology and medicines, how they affect the body, how they work in the body.
Sure.
But because I also love how certain herbs work in the body, how certain, as we know them as like nootropics, or some of these components and things that are, not stimulants, but that can come in, help our brain to relax, our brain to focus in, with natural things we have that are around us that we can use for therapeutic reasons. So I always loved that. And so even during nursing school, even as a new nurse, I'd be kind of like talking to patients, well, hey, have you tried, this and that? Or when I worked at the gastroenterologist, I survived in the hospital for about 4 years. I think 4 years. And I thought, okay, I need weekends off and holidays. Done with that. Done with the schedule that I had at the hospital. So I worked in a surgery center, and we worked with the gastroenterologist. So that's was my first exposure to all of the kind of the gut side of things. Yeah. And even then, as people came in and the doctors would say, I know you've been having all of these symptoms, but everything looks good on our end. We just did the scope. You have a little camera. Whether one direction or the other, and they'd say, it looks good. So sorry, maybe increase your fiber. That's what so many people were going home with. And again, I was right before having kids. This is about 17 years ago. And so even then I would kind of sometimes say, hey, have you tried getting rid of dairy in your diet for a while? Or just, have you tried this? Like, you might want to. And I had to be so careful with what I could say. So long story short, my last 5 years, I worked for a plastic surgeon, which was just kind of fun work. I did that just on a very part-time basis.
That's where I got my butt lift.
Oh my gosh. Edit that out. Edit that out.
That's just biking.
To tell people it's natural.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So being in surgery, again, I feel like the working with the gut health, working in surgery, together, all of this, I know people want to look good, but deep down, doesn't even matter if you're not feeling good. And the amount, especially living here in Utah, might be a little bit stereotypical. We got a whole lot of gorgeous people.
Sure.
And a whole lot of gorgeous people with all sorts of digestive issues, or low energy, or no drive. And so I believe that God's kind of brought these different things in my path so that now I can help a lot of go-getters, men and women, to just like optimize some things, just switch some things. Like, there's a few ingredients people are eating on a daily basis, like, chemical ingredients, things that are added to food that can just wreak havoc, I guess I'll say, on the digestive system. And it's like, you get a few things out of there and it can make such a difference. And then we can come in and just help to optimize. So that's, as you can tell, I could talk about that all day because I love it, because I feel like it really can simplify usually what people are already doing. But the effect that it makes in their life and their day-to-day is so huge. I get excited when people are feeling better, sleeping better. They have more drive. They have more motivation. They feel like they're more happy. I mean, we can do so much of that by just dialing it back a little bit, looking at what we're eating, what we're consuming, and kind of honing in on that.
Hey family, real quick, if you would prefer to watch your content, head on over to Our Family Invests on YouTube. You can watch this podcast and more over there. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that little bell icon too, to make sure you never miss an episode. And now, back to the show.
I love the passion that you have for what you do. And obviously that's apparent with Andrew too. But we are blessed to have spent some time with you guys up at your home in St. George. And we saw, you have 4 amazing children. And it was amazing to both of us how close knit you guys all are. And I know that you've got both biological and adopted children that you have too. And so how has raising both biological and adopted children kind of shaped your understanding of what a family is?
For me, it's like that whole nature versus nurture. And I think a lot of times it's like people just assume if people have got a close family, it's just like, look at the draw maybe. And, we've been through the ringer. But it's like, I think the biggest thing is a kid needs to know that they're going to be loved, and that we might not always get along, but we're always going to love each other. Yeah. And I think the kids also need to know that they're safe and that they can trust the adults. So my kids know if I say no, it's no. It's not ask dad 10 times and he's going to say yes. And a lot of their friends were like, no, you just keep asking your parents and eventually they'll just say yes. And they're like, not with my dad. And
just came up yesterday.
Yes. And like they need to know that there's boundaries and there's love, and that they can trust what the adult says. Especially our oldest adopted would test a lot, especially Janelle in the early days.
She never had a mom role model, really, or the women that were in her life were in and out a lot. So yeah, she was, and even as a 4-year-old, they say she was parentified, which means she was basically as a 4-year-old running the home for 2 dysfunctioning adults.
She's very smart.
A younger
very
sister,
high IQ.
And an older sister who had some special needs, and she was running the roost, So when then all this happened with her, being in foster care and us, our foster care journey really with her, she just needed to know that she gets to be a kid because she had never been told that. She was literally keeping our youngest alive, so she was making sure people were fed. And as a 4-year-old, the caseworkers would tell us these stories because they have everything documented. We have stacks of paper,
wow,
I don't know, 5-6 inches thick of all of the girls' records from every visit, so I would add to that. I think what we've learned is, even though that's what we've learned through our adoption process, through fostering, it's really just what every child needs. And it also is what every teen needs. And I guess I believe it's what every adult needs. Like when we say, once you're a parent, always a parent, right? It's like, I still need my dad. My mom's passed away, but it's like, I still need that. You realize you always need that parent in your life. So I think knowing that as parents, as hard as it is, because, their little things are crazy, like, you're not sleeping as well. We've learned we always want to encourage other parents, no matter where they are in the parenting role. Once you're a parent, you're always a parent. Your kids need you. It looks different during different phases. So they, can't get out of their crib on their own early on. You have certain challenges during that phase. They're older. Our kids' ages right now, they're up. They'll make us breakfast in the morning often and clean up everything. And they know how to use the stove. I mean, they're like, they're functioning as well as they can. As adults. So, but they still need us. They need us emotionally. They need to know that we're going to be there, that we're going to ask how they're really doing. They need us to sit on the couch and still snuggle and be like, so tell me what's really going on. Or a question we've been asking lately is, I feel like every quarter we try to really check in with them, but like, how can I show you I love you even more? How are things really going for you? How are you feeling with friend stuff?
Yeah. Right now we've got 3 14-year-olds and 1 16-year-old, and then there's some more birthdays coming up real soon. But I hear so many times it's like, oh, once the teenagers, that's it, they don't want anything to do with you. And, you used to be their hero. Now you won't be. And I was like, no, I refuse to buy that story. Yeah. Because the second you buy that story, they start behaving like that, or you expect it and you start pulling away. But my kids still are super affectionate. We snuggle a lot on the couch, and we watch movies. We go for hikes together. If I'm walking in the grocery store, kids locked arms with me. And it's like all these old sort of like phrases that people have. It doesn't have to be that way. But I can also say that they need their parents to have a strong marriage.
Yes.
They need to see. I tell my kids all the time. I'm like, I love you guys, but I love your mom more. I said, because you guys are all going to leave me, as you should. And I said, but your mom's going to stay with me. And so
if you leave me, I'm going with you.
Yes.
That's
good. Where are we going?
That's our fun phrase.
But they do. They need to know that we are good. And I think the other thing we do is we bring them into the conversations of life.
We really do.
So
we had to really be judicious about that. But I think from our foster journey, from having to talk about the birds and the bees, to put it lightly on here, but to have to talk about a lot of that, to have to talk about safety with that, to have to at an early age. I actually, looking back, we often say, I think that was the best thing, that we just have had that conversation is just open.
Yeah.
It's not hush hush. It's like, and as I've gotten older and as it's age appropriate, as questions come up or situations that have maybe happened with other people in our world, it's like we're careful with what we shield them from, if that makes sense. we also, I mean, always age appropriateness, but I think we've really learned there's a lot that we need to say, gosh, you know what, without being judgmental. Yeah. Gosh, okay, so you're telling me about this challenging thing with your friend or that has happened, and talking about that from a way of just with compassion, like bring compassion around it. But we just want our kids to see, gosh, can you see how that one decision, look how that affected so many people. Look at the hurt that caused.
Totally.
Like, we love them. Let's pray for them. Like, we're going to make amends with that person if there's a conflict. But that's the tension, I'd say, is having compassion, not having our kids be judgmental. Look at that person who made that mistake. But okay, let's look at that. Let's break it down. What could be some things? And then let's learn from it, and let's bring compassion.
Bring them into the conversation. Even in business, it's like, hey, I had a great month this month, kids. It's going great. Hey, business is really tight this month, and this is what we're doing about it. But it's not shielding them so that they don't know the realities of adulthood.
Very true. I feel like I became an adult thinking, maybe subconsciously, that once you're an adult, things get easy. Right? I think Caroline, you and I were talking about that. Yeah. And so, we want our kids to know, gosh, life's hard. You're tougher, but life's hard. And so to be prepared, to be a great communicator, we're always learning to be great communicators, I should say. We've never arrived, right? But communication, compassion, being able to kind of look at situations from different angles.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, we've talked about this a number of times, but I think, for us, communication is really the key to keeping everything together. It's the glue, right? And yes, you can shield your children from some things but for how long too, right? Mm-hmm. And so with Nico, we've always kind of kept this kind of an open door policy. Like, there are definitely things that we're not going to talk about with him, or we're going to kind of rework the situation, the conversation to go where we need it to go. But at the same time, if he's seeing something at school or hearing something at school, it's like, I don't want you to not be able to come to us first so that we can analyze and help you understand what's going on here. Mm-hmm. And I think that's been really key for us for keeping him as close to us as we have. And we do a lot of the same things that you do, right? Where, we love movie nights. We love cuddling on the couch and, things like that. And he's a big 8-year-old. He's almost as big as I was when I went to high school. But, he's so it's great. Just that amazingness. We want to keep him as close as long as possible. But we also do understand that, we have this journey that's going on forever, right? And at some point, they may leave the nest, and we got to be prepared
kind of the goal,
for that.
Right? And so it's I lived in a bubble. I grew up in a bubble. He'll say I lived under a rock, but we also don't want that for him, but to protect him, but also not shield him, like you said.
Mm-hmm. But it comes down to having these strong family ties, and you guys have very strong family ties. And you also, one of the things that is impressive with the two of you is that you're able to do that, not just in your family, but in your businesses as well. So I know, you do the mindset coaching, Andrew, but you also have Amare too. And how does that all fit in, and how do you work it together as a business and as a family?
Yeah. So I think even Amare sort of came out of fostering, and we were like, the girls were pretty, they were classified as developmentally delayed, and they were behind in a lot of areas. And it was just like, well, what as parents can we do? And it's like, well, they were eating Lunchables and a Mountain Dew for dinner. All right, great. So that's easy transition to healthy food. And now they're in a stable environment. I was like, well, that's great. But what else? And Janelle was actually out in UCLA for a friend's brain surgery. And Janelle's just got a natural knowing if something's not right in medically in the body. And she's just got great intuition. And so she's there, and she's looking through a magazine. It's talking about this microbiome thing for cognitive development in children. And so she brings it back, and I'm like, oh, this could help the girls. And then we started looking around, and it was like, well, we see that it's sort of like knowing that you need a car, but you can't find any cars anywhere. And that's how it felt with microbiome. We knew that microbiome could make a positive impact in them, but we couldn't find anywhere that we could actually work on improving microbiome. And then it just so happens that a guy that we'd spent a good amount of time in Kenya, of all places, and we struck up a relationship there. I remember I gave him some coaching, a family member thing, and it just progressed into a relationship more from there. And they were starting this Amare company all at the same time. And there was no.
So they asked if we would help to be. Can I jump in?
Yeah, go for it.
So they asked if we would help to be some of the founding partners with Amare Global. Nice. And the reason they wanted to come together was each of the founding executives had a big mental wellness story, whether it was addiction, losing a family member to addiction or overdose, their own personal struggles within their family. So this whole mental wellness conversation, as you can imagine, this our pre-launch was in 2017. So we launched officially January 1st, 2018. And so leading up to that we were getting ready to adopt the girls. We adopted them November 2017. And so we were right at this crossroads of what can we do? And they knew that there was no one doing the gut brain connection like this. A lot of natural practitioners, and I had sure seen this to be true, we're starting to work on, gut health. Maybe we're starting to talk about that, 7-ish years ago. And I guess now coming up on 8 years. And so that would look like lots of different bottles on the counter, lots of different liquids to keep refrigerated. It was lots. It was expensive. It was not something that just the average person could do. And so our whole goal with Amare was to help simplify, this is how I word it, simplify gut health, simplify mental wellness so that you can be taking a whole lot less, but getting the results. We really specialize in strain-specific bacteria. So the good bacteria, it's not just your general Acidophilus bifidus, like good stuff in yogurt, little things you might find in the grocery store. Strain-specific bacteria that directly will help send the right messages to the brain in many instances, like our happy hormones, our dopamine for our drive, our serotonin for the happy hormones, simply put, melatonin for good sleep, not giving melatonin, but helping with the right bacterial strains so our body's making its own. So just really empowering the body and the individual, of course, to be able to get those solutions without spending thousands of dollars a month.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So I think that what's really cool about that is that you're looking at this from like a holistic approach, right? We're not going to try and like give you a pill to fix whatever's going wrong. We're going to try and fix the solution and let your body do this naturally.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And the kids are definitely involved in what we do. Very much to where, of course, they all have their own kind of transformation story, especially our two adoptive girls that came with all sorts of skin issues and I think 3 different creams that we'd have to put on them every day for different skin issues. They were really constipated. So they came to us just totally backed up.
They would look like they'd been in a fight every single night, bed sheets everywhere.
Oh, they were such
They would be on the floor.
They'd be on the floor out of their bed because there was such, just the trauma probably. The subconscious trauma. And so for them, they had a big turnaround. And now that we know, I'm really loving talking a lot more now about, the gut skin connection, which is very similar. Our approach is still working on the gut, but that gut skin connection was huge for me. I had adult acne from the age of 20 until I was 27 or 37, because that's when we started Amare, and tried a million things. And so it's so great that just knowing, gosh, when we really go, I said, go upstream. We go upstream with our health. Let's go upstream. Let's look past these other things. Let's go upstream. Let's get that gut healthy. It doesn't have to be complicated, whether it's for our kids or for ourselves. And so I think our kids really, they know that message. They can talk about it. They kind of naturally just know. And we brought in not just here's what you take. What's that, Caroline?
And it's worked for them.
And it's worked great for them. We want them to know why.
They get it in the mornings. It's not like when it reminding them, because they feel better.
And they know why it's working. So I think we've really given that, talking about, empowering our kids and bringing them into the conversation. It could be, hey, take this vitamin.
Yeah.
A lot of parents will say, hey, my kids don't like the taste of this thing. And I'm like, yeah, my maybe 2 of my 4 didn't like the taste of this one thing in the beginning either. But my kids also don't want to brush their teeth.
Yeah.
So I would say
or shower.
Now showering. Why is showering such a chore for teenagers? I'm like, I shower like twice a day.
Yeah, I love showers. I have no idea why it's such a struggle.
Yeah.
Okay, so they don't want to do it. But
we have to remind them to do that. And it's not like, sorry, you don't feel like it today. Okay, that's okay. And so a lot of times parents will be saying that to Janelle, and it's like, yeah, my kids don't like the taste. It's like, okay, but you're the parent.
Right.
And that this is going to be good for them, and it's going to help them with, their focus, their attention levels, their drive, their sleep.
Especially with sleep. If sleep's good, as we all know, when our sleep is good, everything else is better. And so, yes, having them know like how it's working. And some of the kids are more interested in that than others. it does take it. And what we kind of would say, and what I tell parents who do say that, in case this is helpful to your listeners, but I say, hey, I get it. You might not love the taste of this, but this is what we do to be healthy. Just like how we brush our teeth. So you might not love it. We can try some different ways. We can try it in ice. We can try it in that.
Yeah.
But, and if they do that, they will. And then, as we know, as our taste buds change and our kids know that, no big deal. Taste buds change. We're just going to keep doing it. They all now have their little morning routine, mixing it up.
Yeah. It's funny. It's the kids that need it the most will give the biggest pushback. And, you know, and that's most people for most things, you know, and so it's just, again, it comes back to healthy boundaries as a parent. But yeah, it's now the kids will introduce it to their friends. They're like, hey, you got to try this. It's absolutely.
You know, and I want to tell the parents sometimes, I'm like, I promise.
It's like, hey, we got a green drink. Oh, I love it. And I'm like, you do? And they're like, yeah. And once you start feeling good and you can connect those flavors with feeling good, then you want to feel good and you enjoy the flavors more.
So maybe we're seeing a little bit of the ones of our kids that are a little more entrepreneurial minded, that are like, you know, telling their friends, hey, this thing would be really great, whether it's Amare or something else. You know, you see them share the enthusiasm, like, this thing was really great. You should try it. But all in all, we want them to know, also knowing, our bodies are amazing and there's so much we can do. There's certain things. I mean, we're talking, of course, about alcohol to our teens. I mean, they're younger teens, but it's like, not just don't drink alcohol right now, but it's like, the why. What does it do in the body? Leave it to old Andrew to start talking about the liver and, you know. And then the kids are sometimes a little over the top, but they get it. And I think they know, okay,
it's not just worth
do this
lesson again.
I think, you know, we're living in such an interesting time too, because we're starting to learn so much about how the body is interconnected and how everything kind of plays its own role, right? From, you know, you talked about sleep and gut health to, like, we talk about investing a lot, right? But we don't just think about investing financially. It's investing in our health and our wellness and our mental well-being and all those kinds of things that come together. And I think right now with the things that we're learning with medicine, it's really amazing, this stuff that, you know, gut health is like, I feel like it's still like this fringe, like, oh, it's kind of like a cool keyword kind of thing, but it still hasn't hit the mainstream. But I'm sure in, you know, 5-10 years, when everybody's taking, you know, whatever it is that they're taking to, you know, get their microbiomes in check, I think, you know, we're all going to be feeling better, living better, more flexible, and, you know, all the things that we want, you know, is just a matter of doing those little tweaks within our body, right?
And I think a lot of people don't want to admit that yet, that they have gut health, or that they don't know that it stems from there. So I love that.
Yeah.
There's one thing that I feel like comes up in most conversations when I sit down with people, and I was sitting down with somebody yesterday who has lots of knowledge, a very smart woman, and still struggling with some areas of her health. And as we're talking through, just kind of casually as we're wrapping things up, I said, she's talking about this, like a protein ice cream that she makes every night. And I was like, okay, so like, what's in it? Long story short, you know, 2 of the main ingredients of something that she's having every single night. It's a sugar-free, 2 sugar-free things she's adding in there. And that one thing, again, not coming from a place of judgment, but of education, of saying, so are you aware that the sucralose in there or the aspartame, like, number one, not just what it's doing to the gut bacteria and wiping a lot of that out, but what that can do for your cravings, what that can do for you, possibly why you're holding on to this extra fat you don't think you can get rid of. And so sometimes it is those little tweaks, but we're also so used to seeing these things in our everyday life. I mean, you guys know,
they're everywhere.
You're so health focused. It's so hard not to find, especially sucralose, which is the generic name for Splenda, for those that don't know. But sucralose is hidden in so many protein drinks, protein bars, and people wonder why they're feeling so bloated. And sometimes they don't know, is this fat or is this bloat, you know, in their stomach? A lot of times it's bloat, because we have our body, as we know, our fat holds on to toxins. And if the liver isn't ready to process all of that, or doesn't have the right things in place, you know, it can just kind of back things up. It doesn't have to be that way. So sometimes it is just those little things that we can take out, and then little things that we can kind of put in.
Yeah. And it comes to that education standpoint too, right? Because we just did it without thinking. Okay. So Andrew, back to mindset coaching. Mike we've experienced your mindset coaching firsthand, and it has been very transformational in the way we've thought about things or how we've moved forward. So how do you take those teachings to yourself when you've had those low points or the struggles? How do you apply that to you?
Yeah, so I think it's natural to have highs and lows.
For sure.
And sometimes the lows are just like, it's raining outside. I'm going to put my jacket on. And it's where in the past I've beat myself up. It's like, I shouldn't be feeling this way and I shouldn't be doing this. And it comes from a more of a place of self-judgment. And, one of the things I talk a lot to my clients about is if you spoke to your child the same way you speak to yourself internally, how would that child grow up? And most time it's like, oh, you're such an idiot. It's like, oh, you should have figured this out by now. When are you going to get your act together? And it's like, right, that would be an abusive parent. And a lot of times we're trying to do that in the hope that it pushes us into a better level of action. And I just don't see it. I've been fortunate to coach some extremely wealthy clients, but there's still a lot of self-worth issues, and so they keep pursuing wealth, and there's nothing wrong with going after wealth, but there is it if you're trying to get your worth from your wealth. And so for me, it's like there's good days, there's bad days. Last year I had a lot of vertigo. So, the doctors said it was Meniere's disease, pins me to the ground, can't crawl, can't walk, the whole room's spinning. And I had to really look at life and go, right, is this something I'm creating? Am I too busy? Am I too stressed? Is there something I'm eating? I've traditionally dealt with stress through mountain biking and guitar playing and adventuring. Well, my balance went. And so I couldn't do that, but my hearing also went. And like playing guitar would cause me like pain in my ears. And so I remember going, everything I love is being taken away from me, earlier on last year. And then I was like, is this a way that I can expand more? Find other interests. I had a really hard time accepting help. I remember Janelle was gone in Colorado, and I had a big episode, and I had to get my kids to help me. And I was like crying, saying, you should never see your dad like this. Yeah. And they're like, Dad, but it's okay. Like, we want to help. And I was like, yeah, you should never see it. And I was like, right, I don't want to let them down. I don't want to be a burden. That was what was coming up a lot last year. And then I remember going, yeah, but is this healthy? Not accepting help. So I'm a lot better now at letting people help me, I let my kids help me. But then I was just like, right, can I coach lying in bed spinning? Yep.
There's a lot of coaching calls lying in bed. So how are you continuing to use that with your clients? I feel like you've had a lot of conversations about that through that journey.
Yeah.
And the hardship almost with the vertigo. It seems like you've been able to even maybe connect some of their struggles in a different way.
Yeah, because
and help them move forward.
Some things you can't push through.
Yeah.
And that's what I did in the past. I just pushed through things. And, so it was just like, getting other people to help you. So it's like in business, in coaching, it's one of those things is so many people, they want to do it alone because they feel like they've got something to prove. And it's the slowest way of growth. Mm-hmm. Like if I wanted to get great at surfing, the best thing I could do is get a surfing coach or somebody who's really, really good at surfing and hang out with them and learn from them. And that's how it used to be. Like fathers, uncles, grandfathers would pass on wisdom to the boys, and the mothers and the grandmothers would pass on wisdom. We had mentors, and we've stopped that. So part of coaching is a lot of people don't have a role model of what a healthy marriage is, and they don't have a role model of what a healthy parent is, and they don't have a role model of what it takes to grow business and be healthy yourself and have a good marriage and have great healthy kids, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And so I feel like so many people, they do a trade and they're like, oh, if I can just get to this level here, then I'll have enough money so I can have some time to spend with my family. Yeah. And it never happens, and if I could just do this, then I could. And you've got to work on all things together.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, go for it.
Yeah. Which is the premise of bringing on couples like you, families like you guys on here, because we need to change that narrative. And that's the educational standpoint. That's how we can reach other people and tell them that you don't have to have those boundaries or those ceilings as your standards, and you can change the trajectory of your family and how your life goes, which is so empowering and so cool. So,
but I also feel like, one of the big things that I like about, you guys is, and having this conversation with you is that you're open to sharing these vulnerabilities, right? Because even though we look at you and other people may look at you or us or whoever it is as like having this great marriage and this, entrepreneurial success or whatever, everyone struggles from time to time, right? And so like, I'm sure just about everyone has an experience where they've gotten to this moment where they're not sure that they can do it anymore. And then how do you pull yourself out of that? And what stops you from just like, I'm done with this marriage, I'm done with this business?
Yeah, I think a lot of times people, they get tired, and the realization I had last year is I was waiting for it to get easy. I was like, when business gets to this level or when kids get to this age. And then my realization last year is it's not getting easier.
It might have been after we met with our tax gal who was like, wow, you guys had a really great year. And we were like, did?
Feel like it.
Really? Thanks. Because it doesn't feel like it, and it's like, didn't matter what that number was of what we earned that year. We're like, even for us, so I feel like we're constantly having these conversations. I mean, again, it was a hard year. We had death. We had your vertigo. We had a lot of things that were a part of that. But you're right. There's that number is never going to bring the happiness, as we all know. And so through that, I think that's really, Andrew, where as I overhear with your clients sometimes, or the accolades that you get is really that you love to just come in and come alongside to try to be that person, and that they can be growing business alongside the conversations, or business growth focused alongside.
Yeah, it sounds great. Hey, come to me and I'll 10x your income. It sounds great. But not if the things that you care about the most get crippled. And, and it sells really well. Hey, I joined Andrew Devlin's program and, I did this with my income. And it's sexy and it sells. But what I found is it's not the things that matter the most to people. So it's like, how do we, I can't say, well, I just want my right quad to get stronger. If you've got to work out for that, it's like, really? That's just that. I just want to build muscle on my right quad. It's like, I want all of me healthier. I want all of me working better, and that's it. So I think final tip is I look at the marriage as its own entity. Like, what can I do for the marriage to win? Not Janelle, not me. What can I do for the family to win? What can I do for the business to win? And it needs to be all parts of those things in conjunction with each other.
And I was just going to say to your question, I think that is how do you just not quit? I think a lot of times it's dialing it back, having some rest. Sometimes we just need a really good night's sleep. It's seeking out a coach, a mentor, whether that's for your health, or, health, business, whatever that is. If you're coming to me more for the health focus, you're coming to Andrew for the relationship, for the business, for that Leslie's just describing. I think that's having someone that can come alongside you. I think really does. It helps us all. We all know what it's like when you get together with someone that lifts you up. Yeah. Whether it's a close friend or someone you just met at an event and you're like, man, that your energy just brings me up. And I think that just helps us all to get out of our heads, out of the self-judgment, as you said. Yep. And we realize, wait, I don't want to quit this. I just need some new strategies. That's just what I wanted to add to that. But Caroline, what were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say, because you guys work together in overlapping realms, do you have any house rules for each other that you've come up with over the years?
Yeah, I don't talk about business after 8 p.m.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So I'll say stuff. I'm sorry, office is closed.
Yeah.
No.
Right. And I'd say we've still are working on this with the phones. We're still working on even now that our kids now, all four have phones. And so our goal is 8 p.m. phones go away. I feel like, to be honest, that's not always easy. And I think in different seasons, as things come up, it's a little bit harder. But I'd say that's something, they're not.
The phones are new as well.
Oh, and I'll also say now, I think we can probably count. We've been married 20 years. I think could probably count on a couple hands the times we've gone to bed really angry and upset with each other without talking about it. So that's so hard. You guys know.
Yes,
it's so hard when you're feeling upset. And I think what I've learned and where I've landed with it is there's sometimes you just need some space. And if both couples are tired and exhausted, do not try to talk about it before bed, but just say, I know we're both upset. We're going to bed. I mean, ideally going to bed in the same bed. And it's like, I love you.
At the same time.
We try to go to bed at the same time because I'm a night owl. He's not. So that's hard. But we say we want to go to bed at the same time. That's another house rule. And then, but the going to bed angry thing, I feel like that's something that the very beginning the day before a wedding, whatever that was, day before the wedding, my grandma who's like 80 plus, he said, don't go to bed angry. That's my one thing for you. She's been married for many, many years, right? And so that's one thing that I do feel like we're always in our mind. Yes, there's times that we just have, and there's been times where we know we're both exhausted again.
Yeah.
Schedule that for another time. Those would be some big,
and
rules.
again, sometimes just giving each other grace. Just going, it's just not the day, even if we've scheduled a date now, sometimes it's just like, we'll do it tomorrow, or something. It's just giving each other, like, sometimes one of us or both of us can be just misfiring.
Yeah.
And it's not a marriage problem. It's just being a human.
And when we do get to talking about it, we all of the time go out for a walk, even if it's freezing out.
Side to
freezing
side
for St. George,
much better.
Even if it's 50 degrees, it's freezing. But I know
that was the same in Colorado.
They even show that when you're even in Colorado, if you're moving forward, you're physically moving forward
together.
You guys know this, like your bodies are moving forward mentally. It's like things have been really hard, but we're moving forward together. We're sometimes holding hands or linking arms. And there's something about that. It will feel uncomfortable. You might not want to do it, but when you're committed to the marriage and you're committed to making it better, there's just something about that. And that's something that I would say we definitely have made that a habit and a house rule. Because sometimes talking like this isn't the same.
I don't have the sunny, smiley face. And sometimes
you do now with that smile.
That's right.
Yeah. You know what? On that note, let's lighten it up a little bit, because I know we got to wind this down here. You guys got stuff going on, but let's. I want to just ask you some random questions, if for a minute. If your family could live anywhere for a year, where would you go and why?
I would say Spain.
Ooh.
And I'd have the kids their ages now, but I'd have them just in a school so they're fully immersed.
Yeah.
And some sort of, whatever that would look like. And I think it'd be Spain. I'm bilingual in Spanish, very, very rusty, because it's been a long time since I lived in Costa Rica, but I love the language. And we've gone to Spain once with the kids. Everybody loved it. We have some good friends that are out there. That's what it would be for me. I'd rent out our house here, live in Spain, be by the water, eat the good food.
I love
it. I love the whole culture of this.
You might have to get back your red hair.
That's definitely on my list too. I like Spain for sure. Yeah, because I want to go play flamenco guitar over there.
There you go.
I think we need to maybe we need to plan something.
Do a family
retreat.
Trip.
Yeah. What would you say, Andrew?
Somewhere else?
Yeah, no, I've spent a lot of time in the Med, and it's like it sounds funny. It's like I haven't got a big desire to travel because I've done so much, and now it's just like exploring, even around in southern Utah. Just like I love discovering like ancient petroglyphs and just off the beaten track. I have a Jeep that's sort of rigged up for camping, and it's just going out and exploring and just wandering and having experiences with my kids. So it's not like a big travel destination. You're laughing at me now?
I'm just laughing because we've had a lot of travel the last couple of years for different reasons. And so that's Andrew's nice way of saying what he said to me a few weeks ago is, I'm fine if I don't ever leave St. George. I love it here. I want to lay up by our actual pool and enjoy where we live.
Yeah.
I know. I get it.
Like, that's actually how he really feels about it. Because you love being here.
Yeah.
And I think we are looking to, where's that fine line? We love to travel and explore new places, but we also want to have some time to be and not be, always on the go.
On the go.
Yeah. I've learned relaxation and simplicity is much more of a goal for me now than wandering around the planet.
You're getting old.
True.
Just kidding.
Yes,
Oh, it's so good. It's so good to talk with you guys about this, because I think bottom line, this all comes into what are we investing in?
Yes.
And so I just love that our family invests just everything that encompasses, because we choose what we're going to invest in. If you're going to invest in a property, it does not mean it's all going to go great. You invest in a marriage does not mean it's all going to go great. You have to know what to expect.
Yeah.
So again, I feel like even just cheering Andrew on in this, it's like you help people to know, hey, that's normal.
Yes.
No big deal. Here's what we're going to do. Here's some tools and some things that are going to be helpful. Okay, let's go together. It's like they're falling over on the trail because their pack is so heavy and you're coming alongside. I got the donkey. I got the stuff. We're going to do this together. Yeah. And I see that's really what you do, and that's really your gift.
Getting a donkey?
Maybe if you're good.
All right.
If you're good.
Oh, there you go.
In
Birthday
Spain.
present. Yeah.
Yeah, in Spain. In Spain.
Okay, so what's next for you? That 2024 was a big year. What's next for you, both professionally and personally?
Yeah, for me, it's continue to scale the business. I've always been word of mouth, 100% word of mouth. So this is the year that there'll be more branding, more marketing. Janelle's helping me a lot on that side, and I got a good team of people. But it's just that, I've worked for myself, I've worked for other people, but it's just like really stepping into things myself. So it'll be my first event this year in St. George.
Yeah,
So it'll be a great one.
Couples retreat.
Yeah.
And then for me, I would say, we're just starting our international expansion with Amare. And so, although the product side and helping people with the gut health strategies in that way are huge.
Okay, and then tell us also where to connect with you. Where can people find you? Where can people get coaching from Andrew?
So you can connect with us at Devlin Worldwide on Instagram. And also devlinworldwide.com with our new site that is going to be launching here very soon. Right now, we have our sites. We've had the same site for the last few years. It definitely talks about what we do, but the new site's going to be a lot more specific and have some new offerings that we have as far as the mastermind coaching, some other options for people that maybe if they can't afford the one-on-one coaching with Andrew, to have some other options with group coaching in the mastermind. Yep. So that's happening. And then I'd say for me, just that international expansion that's just starting to happen. So we're starting to get a great team over in Australia, and the UK is just kind of starting to take off. And we actually are just launching into 52 countries. And so from the leadership standpoint, that's something that I've just been more focused on now, is as far as those that want to be able to jump in on that are passionate about wellness, mental wellness, gut-brain connection, and helping people to just optimize. So for me, my Instagram is Janelle Devlin, just at Janelle Devlin, and that's mine.
Awesome. Well, we certainly appreciate having you guys on and you guys coming to share some time with us. You guys are truly some of our favorite people in the world, and I could not recommend Andrew's coaching any higher. I think he is just the cat's pajamas. So
thank you. We think the world of you guys as well. So thanks for asking. We share that same commonality of knowing that when life is best, when life is full relationship, full with the friends and family. So
yeah,
thank you.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
You.
Yes, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks for being part of the family today. If you want to see more of our journey through our personal life, businesses, and adventures, give us a follow on Instagram at Our Family Invest.
If you like this podcast, share this episode with a friend. And if you really want to support us, we would be so grateful if you would leave us a review on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. Your review helps us to reach a bigger audience and bring on more amazing guests. Thank you so much. We really, truly appreciate you.